All right. The Lord provided for the people in our last lesson. They're murmuring and complaining. What did God provide to them? Two things, Brody. Quail and manna. Hopefully they would have learned their lesson. They also ran out of water. There, Mara, the tree was put in the bitter water to make it sweet. So there's ample evidence, and yet we'll see that just like us, because there's ample evidence in our lives, and yet we take things for granted. We grumble and complain. So we can't fault the Israelites here, but we'll see again how they murmur. So Exodus chapter 17, lesson 49 here. And we'll see how the people behave here at a place called Rephidim. What happens there. Verse 1, and all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin, and after their journeys according to the commandment of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, give us water, that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? The people thirsted there for water. The people murmured against Moses, and said, wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt, to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? We'll stop there. If you had to travel on foot 3 days' journey through a hot, dry, dusty desert, the sun was baking on you all day, before any of us start to judge these Israelites, I'm afraid to say we probably all too would whine and complain about our situation. It's too hot. Do I have to keep going? I'm out of water. Just want to die. It's so miserable out here. So before we judge the Israelites, we need to make sure that we look at our own selves first. Okay? So here they are, 3 more days they go. We know on average they could make it about 11 miles per day. So they've probably gone around 30 or so miles once again. Oh, I'm trying not to make the squeaky noises ever. Something's doing that. All right. Well, the people reacted, we see, with sin. They murmured. They complained against Moses here. Okay. They whined and complained. Here you've brought us to kill us with our children and our cattle. Okay. It's your fault. You brought us here, Moses. Now you take care of us. Here we are. We're in this desert. We've got no water. You directed us here. You're our leader. Give to us what we need. Okay. In fact, the people were standing there, probably ready to stone Moses, put him to death, kill him. They wanted to rebel. It was mutiny. Okay. First they had rebelled with their mouths, and now they rebel with their hands. Okay. Now, thankfully, God's people were there, just like you and I sin. And sometimes it takes one of us to stand up for what's right and say, now, let's not do this. Let's do things the right way. Let's do things the proper way that we should be doing them. And that's what some of the people do here. There are some of God's people here. They still behave in a right and godly way. We can see that if I look at Hebrews chapter 3, verse 16, and read that to you here. Okay. The Bible tells us that there were some. For some, when they had heard, did provoke, howbeit not all that came out of Egypt by Moses, but with whom he was grieved 40 years, was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the desert. There are some here who are not whining and complaining. They're setting the good example. Okay? So, Moses here prays. Let's go on to verse 4. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, what shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. And the Lord said unto Moses, go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod wherewith thou smotest the river, but take in thine hand and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, and the people may drink. That the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not? So, God commands Moses, he says, my cloud will sit on a rock. That's how you're going to know which rock it is. It's a rocky desert. It was a large rock. Moses took the elders there, and there God directed him, take the rod in your hand and strike that rock, so that the people know it's not you, Moses, that's making the water come forth from the rock. It's I who am making that water come forth from the rock. Now here Moses is told, strike, hit the rock with your rod. That's different, because in a later lesson we know that Moses will get in trouble for doing this exact very same thing, but he gets in trouble because he didn't obey the Lord and do things the way the Lord had told him. But here he does. He goes and he strikes the side of the rock where that cloud sat, and the people could come forth now and get water. They could drink. Moses named it Massah and Meribah because of the chiding of the children of Israel. Okay? Now there's some beautiful pictures here. And I'll also turn to 1 Corinthians 10, verse 4, because, well, we'll see what you guys think. What does it sound like? What does this sound like? Okay. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 4 speaks about this exact situation here. And it's saying, and they were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. So that's passing through the Red Sea. Verse 3, and did all eat the same spiritual meat. They're all eating manna and that, but the same spiritual meat. And did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them. What does it sound like this rock is going to do all the rest of the way through the desert? What does it sound like? Colin? Follow them. Well, that's not the case. This huge, big rock isn't going to roll on its own through the whole desert to give people water. What is the rock that will be following the people of Israel? What symbolic rock? Kenton? Not the Holy Spirit. Who's referenced as a rock in the Bible? Christ. Christ is that rock. He will be following them spiritually through the wilderness. Not this actual rock here that water and is always going to be giving water for us. For Christ, is the water of life. Okay? And that's a picture too. He quenches our spiritual thirst that we see later on when he talks to his disciples and the other followers about being the water that they can drink from and never thirst again. Okay? So we have that here. God again provides for the people. He gives them what they need. They do not die, and yet that still doesn't fix everything. Now look at verse 8, because now we see some more troubles that the Israelites have down here in this peninsula. Verse 8, and then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, choose us out men and go out, fight with the Amalek. Fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in mine hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass that Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed, and when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in the book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar and called the name of it Jehovah Nissi, for he said, behold, the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. The Amalekites come. Why do they come? Well, they've heard the stories of what happened to the Egyptians. They know what happened in the plagues. Do they want those things to happen to them? They're firstborn to die. Do they want the locusts to come upon them? No. And they're afraid what might happen to them. They know exactly where Israel is heading. Israel is headed back to the land of Canaan. Well, that's where the Amalekites live. They don't want to lose their land and their homes. So they decide, here's an opportunity. These people are probably weak as they're passing through this desert, this dry, dusty land. Let's go ahead and attack them there, where they won't be able to have strength, but they'll be on a weakness, and they'll be trapped between the tall, craggy mountains on one side and the sea on the other, and it'll be easy for us to attack them. So they take their men and their weapons, and they head on down here into the Sinai Peninsula, and here they begin to attack. Okay? Now, who are these Amalekites? We know that Amalek, if we go back and we look at all the Bible names, he is a grandson of Esau. Okay? Esau, who married the wicked women of the Canaanites, had a grandson or one child, and that child had another named Amalek. So these are descendants. In fact, you could say this is even distant family to these Israelites. But they come to destroy Amalek. Satan is at work here. He wants to cut off the people of God. Okay? Satan is here hoping to destroy the line of Christ, especially. Okay? These Amalekites were directed by God. God is in control of all things, and in His infinite wisdom before all time, He had decided the Amalekites would come. Because now the people will once again have to learn to trust in God. Just like God had planned they would run out of water, just like God had planned they would run out of food, God also plans the Amalekites will come here to attack. And when they are attacked, they will have to cry out and trust in God. So, now you can imagine there were some of the Israelites who were probably, they knew that the fastest route to get back to Canaan would to be go through the northern land, and probably some of them had been looking forward to that. Especially young, vigorous young men who would probably look forward. Battle? Ooh, I would love to be in battle. Give me a sword. Give me a spear. Give me a bow. Give me some weapons. That sounds exciting. But they didn't get that. They didn't get to go. Rather, they're going through the land. Here, though, some get to fight. Who are they led by? First time we meet this gentleman. Colin? Joshua. We get to meet Joshua here for the first time. Joshua is put in charge of the men by Moses to fight the Amalekites. Now these Amalekites, these people of Amalek they were no fools. When a lion looks out over the plains and he's looking for a zebra or a gazelle that he thinks, or a wildebeest that might be a good meal for him, what type is he looking for? What's he specifically looking for? Out of the thousands of gazelles and zebras and wildebeest out there, which one is he going to pick out? Amber? Maybe if they're younger, what else might be one that looks good to him? A sick one? Maybe even an older one that's slow. That's exactly what the people of Amalek were doing here. Where did they attack? They didn't attack Israel in the front. No, they attacked from the rear. They attacked them from the rear because they knew that's where the old ones would be. The sicker ones, the slower ones, the easy ones to attack. And if we can begin killing them off, we might frighten the rest of the people. And they'll run and they'll flee off. And then it will be easy to pick off the small groups of them. Okay? So they sinfully attack the back of the pack of the Israelites. And that is where Joshua needs to battle. Now, the next day when it comes and they have to do the battle, Moses goes up into a high place as he's commanded by the Lord, and he takes the stick with him. And what does he learn? What does he do to help the Israelites win the battle? Jen? Holds the rod up above his head. Okay? Keeps his hands up high. Maybe some of you have done that in basketball practice. Maybe not. For some conditioning. Take a ball, hold it above your head, and run around for a while. It won't last that long. A minute maybe. 2, 3 at the most maybe. Keep it straight up. they'll start bending and want to come down. You'll want to rest that ball on your head. Well, Moses had the same problem here. So what's the solution? Well, Aaron and Hur come up with him. And they take a rock, one that's comfortable height so that he can sit on. And now he can sit down and hold his hands up in the rod. And Aaron can stand on one side and Hur on the other. And that rod can either rest on their shoulders or they can hold up the rod with their hands down here where one can hold it for a long, extended period of time. As long as that rod stayed up above Moses' head, the Israelites won. As soon as it went down, the people of Amalek would win. In the end here, the Israelites have the victory, not because they were better prepared or they were a better army, but because the Lord was fighting for him. And that's exactly what they see here with this rod. God is fighting for the people. And so they won the battle. Okay? Moses then names this place Jehovah Nissi, meaning Jehovah is my banner. Okay? It's an important idea. We sing the song, His banner over me is love. We carry a banner too wherever we go. By our actions, by how we live, and by how we behave, we fly a banner that says Christian on it. We must never be afraid to say that we are Christians. No matter what retribution may come to us, others may not want to do business with us, others may want to be friends with us, others may want to associate with us. It may mean laughter and mockery for us even. But we must never be afraid to hold that banner high. We pray that we can do that each and every day. And that's a beautiful name here, Jehovah Nissi. Okay? Jehovah is my banner. I will hold him up high. And so when we battle with our own sinful human nature, when we battle against sin, that's when we fly that banner in battle. Just as in the old times, different armies would fly different banners, we too would need to fly that banner in our life, that we are a child of God. So, the people are reminded here again that to depend on the God. They get water from God, and then God delivers them from their enemies. In addition to the manna, in addition to the quail, in addition to the sweetening of the bitter waters, in addition to the Egyptians being destroyed in the Red Sea, these are all examples. But again, before we jump too easily on the Israelites to say, now how could you be so foolish, seeing all these great wonders? We know about them too. Do we always thank God for all He's given to us, or do we grumble and complain sometimes that we would like more or something better? We need to be careful that we don't do that either here.